Hello, beautiful beings of the multiverse, beautiful cosmic family. Thank you for tuning into this episode today, for being with me, taking the time to join in this beautiful space, in this wonderful creative space that is this podcast platform. And I am so grateful to have this possibility to share with you personal experiences of growth, to share beliefs and things that I changed in my life to really foster my growth and my transformation. I am so humbled by this whole life process, by the process of healing and going through really dark times and kind of going through this roller coaster, which is life. And when I'm in the high ups, to be able to share with you the darkness that I experienced, to be able to finally rise and share that message with you. So it's just such a beautiful and humbling process, and I'm so happy that I just have the possibility through this platform to share all of this with you, to maybe somehow help you, guide you in your own process. So thank you so much for being here right now, right here with me. And today I really wanted to share this quite personal topic, because I think that what I like to say is there is something to learn from every single relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship or even work relationships. I'm deeply convinced that there is always something to learn from those experiences, from those different relationships. But I think that the most that we can take away from is definitely the ones that we have with our love partners, with partners that come really, really close to us, really close to our hearts, really close to our vulnerabilities, people that get to see the whole of who you are, the different facets, the different sides and dark sides, as well as really shining sides of your personality. And I think that in this process of being so close to each other, and with the possibility of showing who we are and the different parts of us, I think that's where we actually really get the most of it. That's where we get the most of the healing process, because we are just so narrowly bound to someone. So I think I've definitely learned things from my different relationships from the past, but I would say right now, I feel like I've grown the most through this current relationship in which I am with my beautiful soul, Marc. And we have done a couple of episodes together on this podcast and on his as well. And I will link his podcast for you to listen to the beautiful things that he has to share about veganism, minimalism, very common topics that you can find on my podcast as well. But it would mean the world to me if you would just go and check out what he does, the beautiful content that he creates and shares with the world, and you will definitely find a lot of value in his creations. So yeah, I definitely feel like I've grown the most in this relationship with him. Marc has taught me so many things, even about myself, things that he's made me realize, or that he kind of like brought to the surface, which I then was able to finally see. So yeah, I am just so grateful for this relationship and everything that comes with it. Sometimes I'm not saying, it's all pink, and there definitely have been some really, really low lows and some really high ups. And I'm taking really something from everything. There's not been a second where I didn't learn something, where I didn't evolve through something that we experienced together. So it's a very enriching process of being in this relationship. So basically in this episode, I really want to share with you the things that I feel I have learned from this relationship, the things that changed maybe in my life and in my own personality thanks to this relationship. So the first thing that I want to mention is I think I've become more mindful, I would say on a daily basis, but I think especially more within the relationship. I've become more mindful about my thoughts, about my words, and also one thing that Marc really always emphasizes and like makes me aware of is to be more mindful about my meals, about spending less time on the screens and spending more real time, spending more mindful time in whether it's in the relationship towards each other or in our own relationship to ourselves. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing, because sometimes in a relationship we tend to forget, or even in general, that's something I actually want to share, because I've kind of gotten myself, I've caught myself several times in my life, and maybe this will resonate with you and you will recognize this kind of behavior of yours. But at different times in my life, I really surprised myself and kind of told myself, did you actually forget that this person or any kind of person on the street was actually someone with a heart, with different troubles that they've been going through, different emotions. Sometimes we kind of mindlessly say things and do things. And I think that the biggest reason why we actually do or say dumb stuff that we regret afterwards, I think the biggest reason why we do that is because we forget that the person or the people in front of us are actually exactly we, but in a different body. So when we look at ourselves, it's quite obvious, we know the pain that we've gone through, the really deeply dark times and sad times that we've gone through in our lives. We can kind of picture an imaginary board in front of us, and we can we could put a puzzle, and we could put all the several pieces, the darkest moments we had, the shiniest moments we had, the most beautiful travels we did. We can kind of see in front of us this rainbow of different emotions that we've experienced in our life. And yet sometimes we are in a situation where we are just so overwhelmed by the different emotions we are feeling, and we kind of don't really know what to do with them. And so we kind of spew everything out on the person. We kind of throw everything up on that person in front of us, because we feel like it's just basically a garbage can where you can just throw everything in. When you take your trash and you just throw it in the garbage bin, and you're you don't even think about the container in which you put your trash. And for me, it's like, you take your emotions and you just like throw them like trash, but you're not considering where are you actually throwing your trash. Like, I don't know if you can understand, if you can relate to that kind of metaphor, but yeah, for me, it's like what I sometimes realize. And so in this relationship with Marc, like very often when I realize, I feel I've done or said something that I regret afterwards, I'm like what the beep? Like, why did you say that? Like, could you imagine yourself, like, or someone else telling that to you? It was just like, it felt really just so heartless of me, like completely apathetic, like someone really not considering what the other person could feel. And so when I catch myself in those moments, then it really humbles me, and then I really, like in the next days, I really take the time to process my emotions before I kind of throw up those emotions on my partner. So this is something that I would encourage you to do, and believe me, it's not easy to do, and I kind of like come out of it and then get back into it. Like I fall into it again and again, and I learn again. And I think this is just the whole process of life, you gotta fall and get back up and learn from what you did that didn't really go the way you wished it did. And then you learn from this until the point where you've actually learned it so well that you don't repeat it. So I hope that you understood what I meant with this. So generally, I learned to be more mindful in this relationship. And so it kind of falls down like in the topic of putting oneself in the shoes of the other, in the shoes of the partner. Just put yourself in the position of your partner and imagine if you would have been the one, your partner said the things you said to him or to her, that your partner, or to them, that your partner said this to you. The things, the emotions that you threw up on the other person, imagine that being done to you and how it would feel, how it would hurt. And then when you kind of go into this process, it will help you to be more mindful in the next days, weeks, months, and so on. What I've learned from this relationship is also to express my truth. And I think this has never been as powerful as in this relationship. I've never been able to fully and freely express myself as I did in this relationship with Marc. And to express your truth for me is to say who you are. To say who you are and not be afraid of saying it, not be afraid of saying, this is who I am and you need to accept it. If you're in this relationship with me, you have to accept those different facets of me, those different parts of me, those dark sides of me, because this all makes who I am. And I wouldn't be whole if I hadn't had the darkness I had in me, if I hadn't had the brightness I had in me. So it's really the different components that make the beautiful work of art. And it's something to be really grateful for, because at the beginning your partner chose you exactly for who you are. And to say also, this is who I am and you need to accept it, is also actually saying, this is who I am, but also who I am becoming. This is the change I'm going through, the transformation I'm going through to become the grandest version of myself. And you have to accept this. And you have to be present and supportive in this process. So this is definitely something that I really learned to do better in this relationship. And I think that something that's really like, what's the word? Yeah, like kind of narrowly bound to this is communication. And this could also, be combined with the mindfulness point. Communicating is so important, and I think for me it's never been as important as in this relationship. And I can see that it's a beautiful habit that my boyfriend and I have, that we really make it a priority to communicate, whether it's on the emotional level, on the sexual level, on the professional level, on many different levels. We are more than ever able to communicate, to say what are our needs, what do we want, what do we sometimes maybe expect from one another, what do we want to prioritize in our relationship. And I think that in our relationship I also feel really comfortable to do so, because Marc has also in this way a similar personality to mine, because he's like really like bold, like he says things in a really bold way, really straightforward. And that's something that I really love about him, because then there's really no doubts or like kind of blurriness, it's just everything is said. And sometimes it's I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it's a bit rough, and I have to like process my emotions and make space to welcome his way of saying things. But I really, really love this thing about him, and I'm really grateful for just his ability to see and say things as they are. So for us, this communication is all about saying no as well. And I think that I've never said as many no's in my life in a relationship to a partner. It's become always easier for me to do it, and also to set boundaries, to say that if I need time for myself, I'm going to take the time for myself. If I want to go see my friends, I'm going to go see my friends. And it's not always easy for both of us when we express what we want. Sometimes there are also times where we need to kind of compromise a little bit. But like, don't get me wrong here, we do not compromise who we are. We're not going to change something that we really embrace about ourselves. Like, if there is something we are really passionate about and that we find value in, we are not going to compromise those kind of things. So there are limits, and I think that's something that we should do not only in our relationships, but in general, even with friends, with our family. We have to be able to say when something crosses over the limit, is gone too far. And that's what I really learned to do in this relationship more than ever, and to just express my needs. And it's been a beautiful process, and something that like automatically happens when we communicate. We actually can observe that we have sometimes extremely different opinions, extremely opposite opinions about things, a different pattern of thoughts, different way of organizing ourselves, or different way of managing certain situations. And that's something that's become quite obvious to us. I think that sometimes it's like we have this kind of moments where we just like, we would take maybe, there would be like a minute of silence or something. And then I think usually when this happens, it's like both of us say it, but sometimes it can happen that only one person says it, but we're like, damn, like we're so different from each other. It's crazy. Like we're completely different. In some ways, we're completely different. And in some ways, we really meet on like the same level. I think in most of the things that we prioritize, the things that we care about, the things that we find value in, especially on the ethical and ecological part, we are really similar. But then on some other topics, we're like completely different. But we realize that it's okay, and we do accept it, because we just have different ways of approaching different situations. Like it's the case for so many people, because we have had a different background, different education, different path that brought us to where we are now. And so we realized that it's okay if we have our own way of dealing with things. It's completely fine. And sometimes in kind of showing, like when we see those extreme differences, we can take bits of each other. Like we can take bits of our differences. And sometimes it's really helpful. Sometimes we notice that, okay, you're like completely the opposite of me when it comes to this particular aspect, but I kind of understand why you do this way and why you're like this. And so maybe the one person can take something away from this. And so when it comes to having different opinions or communication, expressing truth, one thing that we also kind of took the habit of doing is to give space to each other. Sometimes there are conversations that are really nourishing, and sometimes there can be a little argument, or one person just let so many emotions out, and so many anger and stress maybe, and it can affect the other partner a little bit too much. And in those times, we kind of, I think, like it comes from ourselves. Like we can tell on our own if this is a time we have to give the other one more space. So we kind of realize it like on our own, and we don't really have to say it. I think it's become like easier and easier for both of us. To actually just see, to just feel when we have to give the other one more space. And so I think that's something that's really valuable and beautiful in a relationship, when both partners are able to see, maybe right now my energy is just too low, I'm going through a hard time, and of course I can take the time and I can try to communicate this to my partner. But if I see that this is influencing my partner in a negative way, if I am somehow transferring, I'm basically impacting my partner too much with this low or dark energy, I'm gonna take some space. I'm gonna kind of retrieve and withdraw for a while to not impact my partner too much with this negative energy. And I think that's something with time we have both really learned to acknowledge, to identify, and we basically do this almost in a very natural way. And I'm really thankful for this for this aspect of our relationship. And when it comes to the opinions, the different opinions we have, what I forgot to say is when we realize that we have different opinions about something, we are still, we try to stay non-judgmental toward each other. We allow ourselves to express, to communicate our different opinions, and we realize sometimes how just so far from another they are. But then we usually know if it's inappropriate to actually judge the person for feeling like this or thinking like this, or I think that more often I would communicate to Marc that I don't need any judgment on this, because this is maybe something that I am firmly convinced of. This is something that's really dear to my heart. This is a value that I'm really passionate about, and this will maybe always be the case. And so I don't need your judgment about it. You can share with me what you think about it, but there is just no judgment left between each other when we do that. So it's also having understanding and respect for our different opinions and different thread of thought, and also having understanding and respect for our individual evolutions. We understand that there are things that we grew with, that there are things that particularly marked us, and they are just part of us, and we are fine with them, and we do accept them. And well, I guess that a consequence of this is not giving a fuck about what others think of us. If there's anything that I really learned from this relationship, I think that it's this, because to put it short, we had a big, a long time of drama in our relationship, coming from other people, from judgments, from gossiping, from rumors, towards ourselves. We're basically, people were judging us from all sides and spreading basically shit, spreading rumors about us. And so at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of impacted us on an emotional level. And then with time, you learn to let go of the drama. You learn to recognize what is drama, to identify it, and you learn to really not to give a shit, because this is not bringing any value in your own process. It's not bringing value in our evolution, in our growth. And so we just learn to completely free ourselves from this kind of anxiety and pressure of asking ourselves, oh my God, what is someone gonna think about me if I say this or do this? And now it's I think for both of us, it's to the point where we really almost, maybe it's we give a damn 1% we give a damn about what others think, but it's almost gone. So it's how much the whole drama that has taken place in our life, it's how much it has actually helped us to realize that we do things for ourselves, and we do express our truth and things that we find value in, things that we're passionate about. We stand for our really solid values. We stand for ethics. And if people are not fine with it, then it's their problem. We're not going to be affected by it if someone doesn't like who we are. And I think that's something that we all have to learn. And it's not an easy process, but I think that in the end it really all serves us. It serves all of us. So I think it's just realizing that we live our lives only for ourselves, and we do not live our lives also because they are really short. The lifetime in this body is actually quite short in comparison to the whole universe existence. And so do live your life for yourself. You do not live for others. You do not live to meet the standards or the expectations of others. You're here to fulfill your own purpose. You're here to grow on your own with experiences that are really just, yours and only to be yours. And that's basically like how I would sum this up. And one thing that's been really important, but I think that you've kind of gotten it. I think you've kind of understood it from this whole episode, is that we take the time to listen to each other. And I think that's, in general, on this whole planet, we need more than ever to listen to each other so that we can engage in a communication, in a supportive communication. I think there's just so much canceling each other, there's so much suppressing each other and separating from each other. And this is also done by politics, by governments that raise borders between us. And so listen to yourself, listen to your emotions, listen to your thoughts, listen to what others have to say, and try to put yourself in others' shoes, whether it's in your relationship to your partner or in life in general. And I think that's basically everything I really wanted to share, everything that was really dear to my heart and that I truly just wanted to speak in this microphone. And I am so happy and grateful for everyone who's tuned into this podcast and who has been listening carefully and taking in the good vibes from this episode. I hope that you found value in this, that this had somehow resonated with you and your experiences in your relationship, in your current relationship or past relationships. Please feel free to share in the comments on Instagram, to contact me per DM if you want to share any experience, and if you want to just have an exchange with me, if you want to come on the podcast and if you want to share something with the world, I would be more than happy to welcome you on this platform. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and to be here and now with me. Thank you for living on this planet, and I'm sending you so much love and so much light. Namaste.